Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sammy Ketchum, and welcome back to Sammy Ketchum TCG. Tonight, I am going to be talking about something that I am very, very passionate about. Well, a deck that I am very, very passionate about. A deck that I've been playing for a very, very long time. 7-8 months to be exact. And that is my Pikachu EX deck, but you guys call it Joltik box. So I'm going to go into an in-depth review and discussion about Joltik box. I first want to explain the history of this deck, how it is, how this deck has developed over the different mini formats and rotations that this deck has gone through, the different stages of the deck, and how it's been developed. Also, its recent rise to fame, its recent discovery and rise. Number 4, I'm going to be going over like a meta-analysis, all of its good matchups, all of its bad matchups, and what this deck can do. And then number 5, and how you can go about playing this deck, if and why you should play it and why you shouldn't play it. All right. But I'm going to talk a little bit over here, and then when I jump into the meta-analysis, I'm going to jump to the screen and you won't be able to see me. So we're going to kind of do it like that and see how it goes. All right. But without further ado, let's jump right into this. All right. First off, the history of my Pika EX deck, or you guys call it Joltik box. All right. When Surging Sparks came out, Pikachu EX was a very, 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 very good card. Not only was it a great card, that Pokemon decided to bring out, it has a great ability, and it also has a great attack. Has a great ability, has a great attack. Resolute Heart. It survives on 10 HP if you try to fully knock it out. And the attack Topaz Bolt, does 300 damage, but you got to discard your energies. But, that's not a problem if you have the right tools to play with it. And Pokemon in Surging Sparks, they gave you all the tools. They gave you all the tools to play with this card. They gave you the Pikachu. They also gave you a Magneton. A Magneton where you can basically get back energies from your discard pile. And you can use them to power up your electric Pokemon. I mean, it's literally for Pikachu. Like, if you got Pikachu powered up somehow, and you discarded all the energies, the next turn pop Magneton, and then you can bring the energies right back and attack the Pikachu again. So they gave you the tools right then and there in the set, to play with the Pikachu. We already had Miraidon, in the format, which could search out all of your electric Pokemon. At the same time, we also had, in the format, pre-rotation, we had Raikou V as an attacker. We also had Raichu V as an attacker. You know, we also had Iron Hands as a very big attacker. And we actually had Joltik. We actually had Joltik in the format, but nobody was using it. So we had Joltik, we had Iron Hands, Raikou V, Area Zero with Raikou V, Area Zero Raikou V busted, Pikachu EX, a Terra Pokemon, which you could put on the bench and go wide with Miraidon. We had all of this in the format. We had Faz, had Mew. The only thing we didn't have that we have now is we don't have Clefairy. We didn't have Clefairy back then. We actually had Iron Leaves. If you want to play Iron Leaves, you could play Iron Leaves. We had Blood Moon. We had everything. I don't think we had actually, and we also got Latias. We also got Latias EX in the same set, Surging Sparks. So I mean, we literally had all of the cards, most of the cards that you're playing now in Joltik Box, we had back when Surging Sparks became legal. So we actually had all of the cards, most of the cards. Prime Catcher, we had that. Yeah. Sparkling Crystal, we had that. Crispin, we had Crispin. So, like, we had all of these cards, but nobody put the pieces together. Well, I did. I put the pieces together. And I said, this is busted. This is crazy. Everybody's going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to play this deck. I'm going to build this deck, and I'm going to take it to a major tournament. And I'm going to show people, you know, the right way to play with Pikachu EX. So I took it to Sacramento. Yes, I took my Pikachu EX deck, aka Joltik Box, to Sacramento last year. So before rotation, before it was even discovered, I was playing this. All right. Also, before Sacramento, I had tried this deck. Before Sacramento, I had tried this deck with a Noctowl build. Where basically I swapped Terrapagos and just put in the Pikachu. Because I already had a Terrapagos deck built, and I just swapped them out. Put Pikachu for Terrapagos, and the deck was basically still kind of the same, but for some reason that didn't work with a Noctowl build. I also had Iron Leaves in the deck. Then I tried a Miraidon type build where I still had generators and Pikachu, and tried to fit the different types of energies for the Pikachu in the deck, and that deck was just a tight nightmare. It was clunky. It just didn't work at all. It just didn't work. And then somebody mentioned Joltik to me, and I was like, okay, that could work. You know, let me try it. I tried it, and boom, here we go. Here we are. Yeah. Let me get my thoughts. All right. So I took this deck to Sacramento. The only problems I ran into with this deck being popular was that people were basically hyping up Pikachu with Lost Box. Okay? People were trying Pikachu with Lost Box, and everybody was scared that Lost Box was going to make a comeback. Pikachu was going to do whatever, and people were scared of Lost Box Pikachu. So much so that everybody was going to counter Pikachu Lost Box. Well, for one, Lost Box was already being countered by Reggie Drago playing Dragapult. You know, because, you know, you just get sniped off by Dragapults. All the Comfies get sniped out by Dragapults. And then you also had Kyurem in the deck. Just made Lost Box just die. But Pikachu, being a big attacker, they added that to the deck, hoping it would kind of bring Lost Box back. Nah. Almost everybody who didn't play, well, actually, almost every single deck had at least 2 copies of Canceling Cologne. So Canceling Cologne shuts off your active opponent's abilities in the active spot. So they would play Canceling Cologne, shut off Pikachu's ability, and then they could knock it out. So it was just basically kind of like Pikachu just could not exist because of Canceling Cologne. Not only Canceling Cologne, we also had Dusknoir. I think from the previous set, Stellar Crown or whatever. But we also had Dusknoir. And Dusknoir could just put damage counters on the Pikachu, pop, and then you could just knock out the Pikachu. You know what I'm saying? So we had many ways to deal with Pikachu. But it was just that collateral damage of Canceling Cologne. You know, every single deck being a card-carrying member. And, you know, and just having hate on that. Despite that, I took it to Sacramento. And I went, where did I go? I had 3 wins. 2 losses, and 3 ties. All right. If any of my ties would have been wins, I could have possibly made day 2. You know, and it would have been the first day 2 with this deck. But I had so many ties. Well, I mean, I explained this in my Sacramento video, was because people just didn't know how to play against my deck. Because it's a brand new deck, you know. You know, they were taking time, doing what they wanted to do. Me being the person that I am, I try not to be that person to call a judge, you know, over, because like I try not to call a judge over too much. I want people to play the game. I want everybody to have a fun time, you know. But, you know, granted, I should take it upon myself to be like, hey, you know, hey judge, can you watch our pace of play, you know, or whatever. So, you know, so we could actually finish games. Because, you know, I mean, we were tying because, well, the nature of the decks I was facing and them facing something that they have never seen before. Also, Sacramento was the first time Surging Sparks was legal. So, and I wanted to show it off. And despite that, I actually, you know, think I did pretty well. I actually did pretty well with the deck. But, you know, again, Canceling Colognes and stuff like that kind of just shut it out. And then after that, I played it in a few more local tournaments. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm going to have to let this kind of rest a little bit. You know, and I picked up Miraidon again and played Miraidon again. I played Maridon, you know, all the way until Prismatic, all the way until Prismatic format. Then Prismatic format came out. Badu came out. Badu came out and changed everything. Badu came out, slowed the format down, you know, slowed it down enough that Maridon became big again. Maridon was doing really, really good, you know, in the prismatic format. Maridon, the deck has won, you know, had won three regionals. 3 regionals or SPEs, you know, during that time. But this is Maridon, not Pika box. But locally, I couldn't play Maridon. Locally, I couldn't play Maridon, at least that well. Because there were decks on the rise like Archaludon and Goldango. Which Maridon doesn't have too good of a matchup into. Well, actually, it had a very bad matchup into Archaludon. But Goldango, it could get around Goldango if you used more of an Area Zero, Raikou V type of deck. If you built your deck more around that, you could get around Goldango. You know, especially if they had to fill their bench. You know, you could go wide with Area Zero and take out the Goldango with Raikou V, and that will help. You know, but it didn't always work. It didn't always pan out. So, but since those 2 decks were being seen a lot in my local scene, I was like, Maridon isn't doing it for me. I'm going to pick back up my Pikachu EX deck, aka Joltik box. So I picked it back up during Prismatic, and I started doing well with it in local tournaments. I was beating Arch, I was beating Goldango. All of Maridon's, it had all of Maridon's good matchups. So I was beating Dragapult, beating Gardevoir, beating everything that Maridon could beat, and also beating all of Maridon's bad matchups. So, you know, I was cracking the code, you know. And through Prismatic, I played it, you know. Of course, nobody didn't find out about Joltik box until after rotation. But even, well, you know, till after rotation. So I played it during Prismatic, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take this to Atlanta Regionals. I already had the deck together, and the only thing I needed for this deck was Clefairy EX. Now, I added Clefairy EX to an already existing Pika box deck, Joltik box. And my reasoning for this was that, you know, the weekends leading up to Atlanta, Tord and Rahul went over and played in the Champions League, and they played Terrabox. All right. And the big thing about Terrabox is that Terrabox played Pikachu EX. And it was a deck that actually did well with Pikachu EX. But the downside of Terrabox was that they could really only use the Pikachu EX maybe once. Maybe twice if they're lucky. So I was just like, they're playing Pikachu EX. They've got the Clefairy in there. They've got all of the support Pokemon. And I'm like, I have a deck already that I'm playing that can take full advantage of Pikachu. You know, I've got the Crispins. I've got, you know, I've got the Crispins. I've got everything to find them. I've got all of the support Pokemon. All I need to add is a Clefairy and 2 Psychic Energies. And boom, I literally have an electric Terra box. You know what I'm saying? So, and then I was just like, I'm on to something here. And so I went and I played this deck to Atlanta. And I played it in Atlanta. I went 3/3 drop. And the last 2 decks I played against were 2 Raging Bolt decks. And I kept telling, you know, I kept asking myself, why am I losing the Raging Bolt? I was like, I couldn't figure it out. And I was just like, and then it hit me. I was just like, this has to be its worst matchup. This has to be its worst matchup. You know, and I was just like, wow, I just lose. I just lose to Slitherwing. You know, I lost to Slitherwing. I was losing to just Slitherwing, Baby Bolt, just the way that they went 2-2-2. Also, if I lost the coin flip, then I practically lose. If they, you know, if they got 2 prizes before I did. I mean, any fast deck coming in that gets the first 2 prizes and they keep up the momentum, then you're going to lose. That's any fast turbo deck. You know what I'm saying? So by default, Raging Bolt was just a bad matchup. And I found out real early firsthand that was his worst matchup. Now, the reason why I dropped and didn't finish playing it out was because there was something on the prize wall that I wanted to actually play for. I wanted to actually get. I wanted to get the Belly Bolt Squishmallow off the prize wall. It was like 5,000 points. I wanted to try to play for it, and if I drop now, I could go play in side events and hopefully get enough tickets between Saturday and Sunday to actually, you know, actually get it. And unfortunately, I did not have enough points for it or enough tickets to get the Belly Bolt. But I did almost get an entire box of, was it still a Crown? Or a Twilight Masquerade, I think. It was one of the older sets that I got packs from. But I was able to do that with side events that I played in between Saturday and Sunday. But all my opponents were nice. Everybody that I played really complimented the deck. Really said this was amazing, great idea. You know, they really liked how everything flowed, how the deck works, and you know, it was just like even the people that I lost to close games, they were like they were like, your deck is very, very good and it looks like it's fun to play. You know, I mean, this was before everybody found out about it, of course. You know, and then after Atlanta, somewhere in Japan or whatever, somebody discovers it, plays it, and then you know, now here we are. Now everybody's playing Joltik box. You know, so now we're here. It's gotten 2 top cut placements, one in Milwaukee, and I think, I'm trying to think, one in the foreign, is it a SPE? I think it was a regional. Might have been, was it Seville? I don't know, but the regional before Milwaukee, oh, Mexico. I think it was Mexico. It got top. In Mexico, it got top 8. Milwaukee, it got top 4. So, but yeah, you know, but it's been on the rise. It's been doing well. A lot of people love it. It's fun to play, you know, well, at least, you know, and everybody thinks that it's just so easy. It doesn't take skill at all or whatnot. And you just go Joltik, spam energies, and go boom, boom, boom. That's what everybody thinks. All right. So let's see. All right. So, but now, but this deck has developed well over all of these formats, and I have been, I've taken ideas actually from all of these new players playing the Pika box / Joltik box deck. So I've taken ideas from them and added them to my deck, you know, and it's made my deck better, you know. But but yeah, you know, I've been playing this deck for a long time, off and on. So all right, and now it's here. Whew. I've been talking for a long time. And as you can tell, like, this is like the first time I've done a video in a very long time. So, you know, forgive me if I have like little pauses and things. I'm just doing this kind of like off the rip, you know, no planning or anything like that, you know, but I really just wanted to talk about this deck. But in a second, we're going to jump over to my laptop screen, and we're going to show you the deck and go into the meta-analysis and stuff. It's good matchups, it's bad matchups, you know, etc., etc. So, without further ado, we're going to jump right over. All right, guys, we are back. And right now we are in front of my laptop screen. And this is the Joltik box deck, that the recent Joltik box deck that was 3rd place in Milwaukee. This is what it looks like. You got your Joltiks, your Garvantula, Pikachus, Ironheads, Mew, Latias. You've got Blood Moon, your Clefairy for your Dragapult matchup. I mean, I guess you could use Clefairy against Raging Bolt, but you know, you really don't need to. You really don't need to, because you could do that with Pikachu. But your Raging Bolt matchup is so bad that this doesn't even matter. You know, so but you got the Iron Leaves, you got, you know, your Genesect. Every Joltik box player is on prime catcher. Your 4 boss, you know, and their list is like, you know, 5-5-2-2 on the energies. But this is a good base to start. Now let's see. Now my take is this. I think people should cut this. I think people should cut the iron leaves, and you should find a way to put in a switch. So take this out and something else and add in 2 switches. Because for one, there are a lot of Dragapult decks and other decks that are also playing Genesects, their own Genesects, to shut off your prime catcher. So if they shut off your prime catcher and you don't have this to switch out, and then they gust up something that can't be switched out, or they corner you, you're going to be stuck in the active. And most of the time when they're doing this, your bench is going to be full. And if your bench is full, most of the time when you're doing this, you're not going to be able to drop iron leaves. You know what I'm saying? So, and then your iron leaves becomes just a dead card sitting in your hand, and you can't do anything about it. You don't play any switches. This is being blocked by your opponent's Genesect, and your bench is full. You don't have area 0 to have an open bench space. You don't have much space on the bench as it is, you know. So I feel like this is just bad. I feel like this is bad. And the reason why, you know, it's bad is like, oh, what are they using it for? They're using it so you could switch. They're using it as a switching out, mainly. Yes, it can be a tech against things like Charizard, or things that are weak like Zoroark, or things like that, but you got Gavantula, you know. But it's mostly used as a switching out to get around corner, to get around stuff like that. But when they go to corner you, they're going to do it when your bench is full. They're going to do it when you don't have an out. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to be stuck. So switches are the best way to do that. And if they're going to corner you, they're not locking your items. So you're going to be able to play switch. You have 4 Arvins in the deck. You can go search for the switch to switch into your attacker or whatever to get out of it. So my recommendation is to take this out, take something else out, and add in 2 switches. That's just my take. I think the Genesect is fine. To block other people's aspects. The only thing I would say about this is that you probably will not be able to stop Raging Bolt's prime catcher. You won't be able to stop Raging Bolt's prime catcher, because most of the time on the Raging Bolts, turn 2, turn 3, they're going for it. And this deck only plays, well, your Joltik box deck only plays 1 Iono, only 1 disruption card. So you're not really putting their Noctowl at the bottom of the deck. You're not really disrupting them in any way. You're not going to be fast enough. You're not going to be fast enough to get this down in time enough to shut off the prime catcher. Well, you know, unless they're like bricking. If they're bricking, then okay. But more than likely, a deck that is that positive into your deck is not bricking at all. You know, so, but still, I think this is a valid inclusion, a valid tech in the deck to stop your opponent's ace bet. Everything else actually looks really good. I honestly, I would cut the escape board and maybe add in Vitality Band. Every time that I've played a skateboard in a deck with Latias, I find the skateboard useless. I find this useless. But Vitality Band can be used against Gardevoir to knock it out with Pikachu. All right, clean, straight up. But and the reason why the Vitality Band is valid is because Gardevoir is one of the biggest decks in the format. Just because of the reason why you play Clefairy, because Dragapult is one of the biggest decks in the format. Same reason you play Vitality Band, Gardevoir is one of the biggest decks in the format. You know, it's valid if you have a tech in here to basically help you one-shot it. So, but this is useless if you have the Latias. Yeah, you could have it in here in case you prize the Latias, but every single time I've seen this card, it's just been useless. And I hate having useless cards in my deck. I really do. Let's see. Let's look at, how do I want to do this? Let's go back, I think. Let's go here. Let's go. What's here? Can I? Oh, no. Let's go back. Okay. Let's go here. All right. Let's click off on this. Okay. So, all right. So we're here. We're looking at, this is the Milwaukee. This is the recent tournament data here. Gardevoir was the most played deck. Joltik Box was the second most played deck. It's a really fun deck. Everybody loved to play it. Had a over 50% win rate. The highest win rate in the tournament, which is ridiculous. So this deck was very, very good. Got third place, 19th place, 43rd. And very, very good placements. Let's see. All right, and this was what the third place player. This is what he played against. He lost against a Dragapult. He won against Dragapult. Tied against the eventual winner of the tournament. Well, to get into the tournament. So that was basically an ID. Won against Dragapult. Won against Dragapult. Won against Dragapult. Win against the Mirror. Won against Roaring Moon. Mirror. Dragapult Dusknoir. Win against Zoroark. And that was a fantastic matchup against Zoroark. win against Dragapult Dusknoir, and loss against Gholdengo Polt, which, you know, first round Caleb Rogerson. I think he also made top cut. I think. But I honestly don't know how he lost to this. But I could think of some reasons why he might have lost to this. You know, Dragapult coming out, doing shenanigans, setting up a 4-prize turn. Gholdengo backing up Dragapult. You know, I think Dragapult is a good fit with Gholdengo. Kind of fixes Gholdengo's bad matchups. You know, so that combination could really, I guess, work against, you know, Joltik Box. Especially with like a player like Caleb Rogerson. He's one of the best players right now in the US. So, like, you know, you're not gonna win you're not gonna win too much against like a very, very good player like this, especially if they know what they're doing and they know the matchup and they know how to play it. You know, if you lose to a good player like this, you know, I mean, what can you say, right? Let's see, what else are you losing? Lost against Dragapult, Makani Tran. This was top cut. This was top cut. So losing top cut to Makani Tran. He's also a very good player, very good up and coming player. You know, so I mean, you take those, but probably what happened in this matchup was probably like maybe like unfortunate draws. You know, you lose the coin flip. You get Badooed. Maybe things got prized, just things like that. But other than losing to the Dragapult and top cut, you know, beat Dragapult here, beat this. The only thing you really lose to, is Raging Bolt. Is this. This is the only thing you lose to. Well, this is the only thing you hard lose to. You can lose to Gardevoir, and you can lose to Dragapult. You know, especially if your opponent has a game plan against you, and also if you're playing against skilled Dragapult players, skilled Gardevoir players, people who've been playing with those decks for weeks, for months. You know, also if you're just picking up Joltik Box, you know, because it's fun, you're believing the hype, you think it's fun. If you're just picking it up, you're not going to basically know how these matchups play out. You're not going to know how to play against these matchups, and you're not even going to know how to win against these matchups. You got to know how to win against these matchups. And now that this deck is out, and now that they know how to play against you, you're going to have to basically, you know, figure out how you're going to play against them and how you can still win even a favorable matchup. You know what I'm saying? So, let's see. Let's take this. Okay. All right. So, Dragapult Dusknoir. All right. So let's take a look at this. All right. Um, Dragapult Dusknoir is very good. You know, they could use Dusknoir and Dusclops to put damage on your Pikachus, you know, and then they could basically hit you with Dragapult and Phantom Dive and start sniping off your bench, you know. They could also, if you lose the coin flip and they go second, they can Badoo you. Well, going first with Joltik box is kind of bad anyway, because also if you do not get a decent hand going first, you know, like if you don't get nest balls and if you don't get stuff or an energy to put down and you just have a terrible first hand, you know, you could basically lose right then and there because you just don't have a decent hand, a decent setup. And then your opponent goes second and then they Badoo you. And now you can't even play items. So now you can't play Nest Ball to get out your Miraidon. Or anything for that matter. And you may only be stuck with maybe 1 or 2 Pokemon. You may or may not even have a supporter. You know what I'm saying? So you may be locked out of the game right from the get-go. Just because you lost the coin flip. Well, not only because you lost the coin flip, but because you had a really bad first turn opening hand. I mean, now if you had a bad opening hand, that's due to luck. Also, you may have a hand that is only good for going second. If you have a go second hand, then your hand going first is going to suck. You know, and this deck and Gardevoir loves it when you lose the coin flip and when you can't play the game. It gives Dragapult and Gardevoir more time to set up the strategy, to set up their game plan in order to overtake you in a matchup where this deck shouldn't win against you. Also, another reason this deck wins against you is because of come on. Pokemon League headquarters is because of this card. Attacks used by basic Pokemon cost 1 colorless more. Alright, so this puts your deck in a major bind because you need more energy to attack. More energy attack with Pikachu, more energy attack with Iron Hands, all of your basic Pokemon. And right now, Joltik Box doesn't have any stadium bumps to bump this off the field. They play this against you, and you're kind of stuck. Crispin can't get you there if you don't already have energies attached. And when they usually play it, it's usually after you've already jolted onto something, or you know, or you've already attacked at something and your energies are discarded and you have to get more energies down, and this is basically just hindering you more, making it harder for you to attack, and you're literally going to be locked out of doing anything. You can't even go Crispin. You can't even go Crispin to your Clefairy to knock out the Dragapult because you need an extra energy. And if you are using Mew against Dragapult, you now need 4 energies instead of 3. So, and Joltik Box not playing stadiums, yeah, this is just going to shut you down. Also, another card that's also going to shut you down is Jamming Tower. Now, Jamming Tower shut you down because Joltik box, let's go back to it here. Let's go back to it here. Let's see. Let's go back to it here. Let's see. Okay. Let's go back to it here. Okay. All right. So, Joltik box gets shut out by Jamming Tower because we've got Bravery Charms in here, Future Booster Capsule, we've got Rescue Board, and they can go Jamming Tower to basically, you know, shut these off so they could basically take advantage of knocking out the Pokemon with the Bravery Charm on them, because the Bravery Charm has no effect when Jamming Tower is out. You know, your Iron Hands or the Iron Leaves with the Future Booster attached to it doesn't have free retreat. You know, and if you had the Vitality Band in here, oh, it doesn't work now. You know, they could have out the Jamming Tower plus, a Genesect, locking off your Ace-Spec and locking off your Pokemon tools, which is very bad. So I would say moving forward, Joltik box has to find a way to add in a couple of stadiums. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, in my deck, I cut an Ultra Ball, and I actually cut these. I actually cut the Pokegears. But I cut an Ultra Ball, and I added in a stadium. I added in, well, a couple of stadiums. I added in Area Zero, so I could kind of go wide, and I also added in Gravity Mountain. But I also cut these so I could have more room for things in my deck. I cut these. I cut the Pokegears for Tatsugiri. And Tatsugiri, with Tatsugiri on the field, every turn, I basically get a Pokegear effect every single turn. You know, without having to draw into an item. I literally have a Pokegear on the field in the form of Tatsugiri. So Tatsugiri basically fills the role of all three of these cards. So that makes it so that now I could have more room in the deck. But yeah, I cut these. I cut an Ultra Ball, because the only thing I really use Ultra Ball to find is the Galvantula. So I went down to 2 Ultra Balls. I have Super Rod instead of Night Stretcher, because I want to put energies back into the deck, because I have 4 Crispins in here. If I put energies back into the deck, that means I'll have more energies for Crispin. Then I could have, you know, abuse Crispin more for my Pikachus or Iron Hands or whatever, or the Clefairy or whatnot. You know, so Super Rod and Crispin is a very, very good synchronizing combo. I also have a second Iono in here because I value disruption. I value disruption a lot more. Being able to disrupt your opponent mid to late game is very, very crucial. And one Iono is not going to cut it. One Iono is not going to cut it. I cut an Arven for a second Iono because I just think it is so important to disrupt your opponent. And one eye, you're not going to see one eye Ono very often at all. So I value two Ionos a lot in my deck, you know. But you know, but other than that, I think this deck is very, very solid. You know, it can basically beat everything except for Raging Bolt. It can lose the Gardevoir and it can lose the Dragapult, depending on the skill and caliber of the players you are playing against. You know, and you losing the coin flip, or you just having bad hands, bad prizes, etc. Things like that. Also, if the Dragapult player is playing, the Dragapult players or other players are playing something like Maractus or something to lock your Pokemon in the active spot where you can't retreat, stops this deck. It stopped this deck because, like, if you can't retreat, you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do if you can't retreat? They use Maractus against you, or what's that little Knackley card? Knackley card that has the same attack corner. You know, you won't be able to drop this because your bench is full. You won't be able to play this because they have Genesect out. So, but, you know, if they have something like that out, then yes, Dragapult can win, or Gardevoir can win, or any deck with any of those, and they lock you in the active, they can win if you don't have outs to it. You know, like I said, the Jamming Tower, Pokemon League HQ, those can basically make you lose against those decks. Also, Gardevoir decks, if they're playing Klefkies, a multiple Klefki, and they start Klefki in the active, Klefki's ability shuts off all basic Pokemon abilities except for Klefki. So you won't have Miraidon's ability, you won't have Fez's ability, you won't have Mew's ability, you won't have Latias's ability to retreat. It shuts off Pikachu's ability, shuts off Iron Leaf, shuts off Clefairy, shuts off, oh, it even shuts off Genesect. It also shuts off Blood Moon. So all of these basic abilities are being shut off by Klefki, or shut off by Klefki mainly, if they have that in the active spot. This is mainly, I want to say Gardevoir decks playing it. Some Gardevoir decks, not a lot, some of them. But they can lock you out of the game, and you won't be able to do anything. But it's not really, you can't really blame yourself for what they do and how they do it. It's just like, you get locked out of the game, you get locked out of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how it is. It's not your fault. It's just them respecting your deck. And, you know, you lose because of it. You don't lose because of something that you did. You lost because they're respecting your deck. And if they're respecting your deck, then that's them acknowledging how good your deck is. That's actually something you could be proud of. That they have to go out of their way to play something inconsistent to basically go against your deck to shut you off. So that's something you could actually turn into a positive, even though you lost because of it. But yeah, but for the main part, this deck is fun. This deck is great. I absolutely love it. I love playing it. If I was going to Portland, I probably would play this, but I would definitely play it a little bit differently. Like I said, I would cut the iron leaves and cut something else and find a way to put in 2 switches. I would cut the not vitality band. I cut the rescue board for vitality band. You know, things like that. But I would play it because I'm experienced with the deck. I have over 8 months of experience with this deck. So, you know, I know it's good matchups, it's bad matchups. You know, everything about this deck. Now, if you're a new player playing this deck going into this weekend, I wouldn't play this deck. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, you're just picking it up. You're just picking it up because it's fun, because it's popular, you know, and you just kind of want to just sit there and go Joltik spam, bing, bang, boom. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's fun to do that. You could play it for fun, but you're not going to have any fun going into Toronto when everybody's going to be playing Raging Bolt, because Raging Bolt just won the last regional. Your worst matchup just won the last regional. Think about that. So now there are going to be a lot of Raging Bolt players. A lot of players playing your worst matchup. Doesn't matter if they're skilled players or not skilled players. You still lose. Joltik Box will still lose that matchup like on the spot. The only way you win is if they brick. The only way you win is if they brick. Now that's the only way you win, is if they brick and don't know how to play their deck. That's the only way you win. So, if you know that going into this weekend and you want to play this deck, you know, I mean, by all means play it, you know, but honestly, if I was going to Toronto and if I was a new player, I wouldn't play this. I would play something else. If you've played other decks or other stuff, if you have more experience with another deck, play that deck over this. Don't play this. Now, I mean, now if you're if you don't have like a certain deck that you've played a lot and you just want to have fun and play something fun, you know, and just have a good time, you know, and not really have to worry about prize checking and all of that, play this deck. It is hella fun. I love it to death. Pikachu is one of my favorite Pokemon. You know, if you want to go nuts, go nuts. But I'm saying this right now. If I was a new player or a player that had experience with another deck, then I would not play this deck. But but I have experience with it, so I would, but I would, you know, I encourage other people to play something else, because Raging Bolt is going to go nuts until it gets beat, until it dies down, you know, or until we see something maybe from Destined Rivals, if anything from Destined Rivals is good, you know, because other than this weekend, that's what we're going to have to look forward to next is Destined Rivals and NAIC. So things may be different then, but for right now, I would kind of just sideline it if you're new to this deck, you know. But other than that, guys, that is the video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, make sure you take care of yourself and each other. Thank you.